Hello coders, welcome to another YouTube tutorial. This is Bisky here. Today we are going to persist a user into our database. I will show you how to do this. So let's get started. So on the previous video we managed to connect to the database. In this video I will show you how to persist a user. So let's go into our modules, to our user module. There are a few things that you want to add. We added a JPA dependence on the previous video, so let's use this one to persist our user and to add some constraints to the user class, and our entity will be user. So we know that when creating a user we must have an ID. So what you do here, we must add it ID. We must add it ID, and we want to create a auto creation of a ID. When you save, you get a unique IDs generated automatically. So we add it generated value. So for this I want to use a generator. I want to use UUID, and I want to use the class, the generating class strategy. I want to use UUID generator from Hibernate. So you can add this annotation at generic generator, at generic generator from annotations, and the name will be the same, UUID, and then the strategy is coming from this class object-relational id.uuid generator. Then, and for our username, it must be unique always. So you add column unique. You set it to true. By default it is false. It must not be nullable. False. And also for first name, we want to for first name add column nullable false, and also last name. Then the other thing for this class, so to be able to persist this class, we must add an annotation which maps our fields to a relational table. So we add this to differentiate this class from others. We make it at what? We must add this at entity for persistence. Yeah. So now it's because I added this at builder. So that's why. So to fix this error, if you want to use at builder, you just add at args constructor and add no arguments constructor, and this error will be fixed. But for this one, if you move it will tell you that the attribute should not be a container. So to fix this one, let's for this list of string, a separate table will be created with a list of rows with map user to a row. So you just add at element collection. So that's all from here. So here we are able to create a table with a list of these fields, and a unique ID will be created for each user, and username must be always unique so that one username per person, and the field must not be empty, and also this one must not be empty, and first name and last name. So how do we save now this user? In Spring, there's what they call a repository. It's an interface which is provided by Spring. So we have CRUD repository, pagination repository, JPA repository. So here we want to extend JPA repository. So let's create now our first our package, call it repository. So in this, we want to create a user repository. So it's an interface. So it's user repository. This repository we are going to use it to save this user entity and to retrieve data, to get number of users that are in the database. So we have the Spring has provided us a methods to use. So here we have to extend JPA repository. So the first argument, we will say we want to use a user class, and the second argument is going to be your ID. If your ID is string, you put string here. If it's long, you put long here. So for us, our ID is string. Here, this is a string. That's why we put string here. And here it's user. Here we need a class that a class that needed here is with entity annotation. So after we are done with this, we just go here and copy this one. So in this JPA entity, there are so many methods that are here. We have save and flash to save our user. It's a generic method, and to get user, to delete, find all users. It's a generic. It depends on the class that you passed here, and it also extends list CRUD repository, list pagination sorting repository, query example executor. So if you go into here, we end up in CRUD repository, where we get find by ID, to count the number of items, to delete. So you can also use these methods also. So here, let's go into our interface on our implementation. So what you have to do is to say private final user repository. Then we want to use this. So as I told you, in terms of dependency injection, you can generate a constructor like this one. So by doing this, we did dependency injection, so there will be no null pointer exception when using this, right? So to save a user, you just come here in this create user, you just say user repository dot save in the name of our entity here. So by doing this, we are now able to save our user. Let's run this application. So let's test. We want to be able to create a user. So on our user, the username here will be Bisq, first name Bisq, and the last name it's Musweed, age 24. Let's leave it as that. Then we are calling this our domain, we are on localhost running on port 8991, which is this one. Where's the port? Where's our port here? This port, Tomcat started at port 8991. So you are seeing here, when we run the application for the first time, you see we're able to create a table called user, and also user rows, and an index was added, and a unique constraint for username, and a foreign key user ID on this table user rows. So it's because of this generate DLL is true, and we are seeing these logs because we enable show SQL here true. So, and we told that create database if not exists, so our database was created. So let's test this one. You see the ID, we are able to test this one. You can see a new ID was created here. This is the ID. You can see on our request it didn't send an ID, but we get an ID on the response, so we are able to save our user. We can test this by looking into our relational database. Here I'm using data grip to test this. So let's refresh and look to the name of the database, Spring Tutorial Database. So what you can do here, this is the name of the database. Let's refresh here. This is the database name. When we do this, this is the database name, and it has two tables, user and with the ID, this one which was created. You can see it on the post name, the same ID, so we are able to save our user with the first name, last name, and username. And this user is a raw employee. So you can see now we are able to create our user with Spring Boot. Then let's test the get. So here, if we try to get this one, here we are using, it's because we are okay. Right now we are not able to test the get because we are using a demo. We are using on the implementation. We are not pulling it from the database. We can do the get in the next episode. Thank you guys for watching this video of creating a user. I showed you how to create a user, how to create a repository, and also testing with Postman how to create a user and a new ID was generated. Let's meet on the next video where we try to get this user from the database. Salut coders. Don't forget to like, share. If you are a new subscriber, click the subscribe button